I must break you.
Come get it!
It's time, Michael.
I will do what I must.
You will try.
Final round.
You're going down. No way.
There we go.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
What's going on, guys and gals, and welcome back to Good Reel Hunting. Hurry up for the good reels so you don't have to. It's your boy Brad, the Bretman's over there. We have a very special, awesome guest with us, Robby Sobel, down below here today. First time on the channel. We're jacked to have him. We've been, of course, doing the Friday the 13th review series alongside him and our other pals, so be sure to check his channel out. We'll put a description for that down below for you guys to find.
We are so jacked to have Robby here, to be back, doing Slash It Out, and great special guest moderator. Robby, how are you doing, my friend?
I am doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you for giving me the invite to hop on your channel and to host this very friendly but interesting debate I'm sure we're going to have over the next hour and change.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be awesome, and we're just jacked to be back. He's got two very interesting movies picked out for us down below, and so we're excited to talk about it. Of course, those two movies being The Exorcism of Emily Rose and The Fourth Kind. Brett's going to be defending The Fourth Kind. I'm going to be defending The Exorcism of Emily Rose. We're jacked about it. We're back. It's going to be awesome. We're pumped. What are you guys thinking, man? You guys jacked or what?
I'm ready. These two movies, I have to say that I've been I bring back my horror fandom to 1988 when I was only 4 years old, and I remember it. It's one of my first early memories. I remember being with my mom watching the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't know if it was rented or if it was just on TV, whatever. But I remember being in preschool, and the reason why I can pinpoint the year, the date, all that, is because I had my earliest memory, the first memory that I could really ever have of a dream. It was being in my bedroom and having to get onto the wall and kind of scale my way around the whole bedroom, climbing on dressers and a desk, whatever, to get to the light switch to turn on the light, and on the light switch covering it was the Freddy glove.
Oh, don't tell me that. No, don't say that.
I remember reaching, just trying to get my finger between his fingered glove where the light switch was sticking out.
Oh.
And as I was reaching, it's when I woke up, and I remember checking under my bed and looking for Freddy, telling my mom about it, and the apartment where we were living and the whole actual setup of the room was how it was when I was that age.
Oof.
So everything's kind of put back. So the point of it is that I've been watching horror movies and scary shit for a very long time. I've been a diehard. I actually did my collection count. I went and I literally have an app where I scan every movie I own, whether it's Blu-ray, DVD, VHS, whatever. And I got up to 1,700, and over 1,000 are horror films.
Nice.
You know, I live in, I got a movie room here, and it looks like a Blockbuster.
I could, yeah.
All the memorabilia, you see all the stuff behind.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, it looks great.
So I've seen a lot of these things. Now, in regards to what actually scares somebody, that's all subjective, right? Because, we all have lived different lives and different memories that we've had over these years. Different films can trigger certain emotions. So what scares me might not scare Brett, but what scares Brett might not scare Brad, whatever. I can remember going to the movie theater in Long Beach, Long Island in 2005. I remember I sat in the middle row, towards the right side with my best friend to see The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Now, up until that point, I was 21, give or take, at that point, 2021, depending on when the movie came out. And The Exorcist was always like the scariest, the best classic exorcism film. and I still have it right there. So much of that is because of the historical impact that it's had on the horror genre, and even people who are not genre fans know The Exorcist. But right there, like in that second level, the number 2 for me is The Exorcism of Emily Rose. And the interesting thing about both of the movies that we're going to talk about is that The Exorcism of Emily Rose and The Fourth Kind are the 2 films that scared me more than any of these other movies. So you're talking 30 something plus years of watching movies. I own all these movies. I watch all this shit all the time. And these 2 are at the top of the list. And it's interesting because The Fourth Kind is a film that focuses on alien abduction. And I think it's done it's presented in a realistic light. And that's what I think kind of got me. But I'm not one of these like real alien believers. I don't know. I mean, are there aliens? Maybe. I don't know. It's not something I really think about too much. I haven't seen too much credible evidence, so I don't know. On the other side, on Emily Rose, I'm not really a religious person at all. I don't know. I mean, you're dealing with Catholicism and whatnot in that movie. Is everything with Jesus real in the Virgin Mary and possessions and demons? What do I know? I don't know. That's not an easy question to answer. You have to have. That's where faith kind of comes in. So you have these 2 films with subject matters where I'm not really a believer in it, and somehow, saying that, they still made a huge impact on me, and both of them made me think. And I kind of left these films going, what if? Maybe. And if you can leave a film and it still sits with you days later, weeks later, shit, at this point, years later, that movie did its job and then some. Not every movie's like that. There's a lot of movies we can watch and have fun with that are not bad movies, but they're not so impactful. Maybe you watch them 1 or 2 times later down the road, or maybe you like to rewatch them for some fun, but there's nothing else really there. So when we come across these movies that can impact us and truly tap into whatever that fear is, especially the people like us and the people watching this show, who probably, it's safe to say that us and the viewers are almost kind of desensitized to a lot of this because we're watching it all the time. So you get numb to it. I don't want to be offend anybody here, but it's almost like if you're out in the trenches in war all the time and you're on those front lines, at some point a dead body is another fucking dead body. And you're kind of just shutting off those emotions and you just see it. So it's not going to affect you the same way. And it might affect some lady at a convenience store and a shooting happens and she sees somebody dead on the ground. It's a little different. So we've become desensitized. So if for us who are desensitized, whatever, for us to still be impacted and to find some films that affect us like that, that's in a way a beautiful thing, I think.
Definitely. Yeah. And like Aaron Bruner says in The Exorcism of Emily Rose, is it possible? That's all you got to know. Is it possible?
That's all.
And it throws that question out there. All these films do. So I think it's pretty cool. And yeah, it's gonna be a fun conversation. And I know both of you guys like this movie, The Fourth Kind. I hope you guys don't hate me by the time this is over with. It's nothing. You guys.
I hate you even before this. So.
Yeah. Well, that's true, but that's to be expected.
You know what? I'm desensitized to people hating The Fourth Kind because most people do. So Brad, you can join the club. You fit right in.
Okay, good, awesome, glad to hear it.
Well, all I know is I might be the underdog in this, but I am the man. So I am ready to seal me another W.
All right.
So I think before we get down to the nitty gritty here, let's go to our tell the tape. And yeah, so here we go. Yeah, Emily Rose has a little bit of an advantage, like in the IMBD and the Rotten Tomatoes and all that. Bigger budget, which with bigger budget usually comes with a bigger domestic box office. It all really just depends, almost as equal to the cast too. So, what do you guys think about this tale of the tape?
Well, you go, Brad. You go.
Okay. First for me is I'm not really personally. I'm not surprised by the numbers for The Fourth Kind at all. I mean, all of that sounds in line for me. I think I'm not surprised it made a decent amount of money, and I'm not surprised by the scores either. I am a little surprised about the Emily Rose scores, how low they are, especially from the critics. I would find this as a movie that critics would probably like. In my opinion, but they don't, so that's okay. I'm just a little bit surprised, but money-wise, I'm not. I think that's all pretty solid. I am kind of surprised about the budget for Emily Rose, though. It doesn't really feel like a $20 movie. A $20 million movie, but that's okay. I mean, it looks great. There's obviously some effects in the air, and the production value is very solid. But anyway, yeah, go ahead, Robby.
Well, I want to go to the Rotten Tomatoes scores on both of these really quick. Now, I understand that I know Fourth Kind is not a film that's loved, but 18%. I mean, listen, I don't know what type of movies a lot of these people who are reviewing on Rotten Tomatoes, but I've seen some terrible films that I've gotten from like the dollar store that are just they look like their friends took out a mini DV camcorder in 2003 and didn't even have a script, and they put that together and made a movie at like 83 minutes, which is like the minimum, and like those scores are like 18%. Really? Like The Fourth Kind is really only an 18%. Like it's not. Like, are they trying to tell me it's really that bad? Like, the acting, the cinematography, is all should be at least decent enough to get this higher than that. That's almost to me, that's ridiculous. Now, on the flip side, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, for me, is after The Exorcist, it's the best exorcism film that I've ever seen. Period. It is like a mix of The Exorcist and Law and Order. And I love the way that the film is done in flashbacks. The performance of Jennifer Carpenter as Emily Rose is just brilliant. And it's one of those performances that I see in a horror film that just gets ignored because it's a genre film. You know, recently you've seen stuff like Toni Collette in Hereditary that just gets brushed aside. Nobody, even though it was great. And Lupita Nyong'o in Us did a great job, but it's a horror movie, so who cares? If it was a different type of genre with a similar performance, everyone would be loving it. But because it's a horror movie, no one gives it the proper credit. 44% for The Exorcism. As salty as I am on the Fourth Kind critic score, The Exorcism of Emily Rose at 44%. So if you're saying out of 100%, 50% down the middle is like splitting the difference. It's half and half. You could take it or leave it. So you're telling me that The Exorcism of Emily Rose and the critic size is in the red? It's not even an average movie?
It's pretty criminal, man. Like I honestly think that this movie is, and we'll get into it. And I'll explain the reasons why as the more we get into this debate. But I mean, I think it's a damn good movie, man. And I honestly, like, when I saw this critic score, I was surprised because this does feel like a movie that critics would like. I feel like if it came out today, I think it would have a solid score. I would be surprised if I went and saw this movie today, 2021, it comes out, and I go to see it at theater and I come home and see it's got a 44. I would be shocked. Like to me, that feels like a movie because there's stuff going on there. There's character arcs. There's everything. And for me, it's just it's very shocking that it's that low for the critics.
And what I usually say about the critics when it comes to the horror genre on Rotten Tomatoes, it's just like they got this ginormous stick up their ass. Like they just don't understand the horror genre. And it really is, the audience almost pissed me off even more because a good 75% of those people are on Rotten Tomatoes, like for the audience, are not horror fans. So that's what pisses me off.
Yeah, that annoys me too. And I'm really happy that we're doing this right now because I guess it was 2 weeks ago the new Conjuring movie came out. And this movie, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, was promoted as it was the demonic court case that shocked America, something like that, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I was going to go in there and we were going to see a similar type of film as Exorcism of Emily Rose. Where,
right. I'm sorry to interrupt. And another reason why I watched The Exorcism of Emily Rose, so I can prepare myself for the new Conjuring movie.
Yes. So the new Conjuring came out and I did a review on it as well. And it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was fine.
Yeah, take or leave it. That's why we gave it.
That's not exactly glowing praise. But I look at the Conjuring numbers on Rotten Tomatoes. It has a 57% score from the critics and an 84% score from the audience.
Yeah.
Telling me that the audience and the critics are trying to tell me that movie, this new Conjuring movie, which if I never saw again for the rest of my life, I wouldn't care.
Right.
You're trying to tell me that both of them, both sides, critics and audience, both think that's better than the Exorcism of Emily Rose?
Yeah, dude.
I don't understand.
Absolutely not. Yeah, that's incorrect. I think, and again, I don't know. Maybe this movie was ahead of its time. I don't know. Maybe people weren't ready for that mix of horror and thriller. You know what I mean? Like this, it's kind of between genres almost. It's almost not like, obviously it's got horror elements to it. It's got scary as fuck. But I mean, there's also more of a thriller thing going on too, and a drama at times. So maybe people weren't ready for that kind of diversity at that time. That genre split, if you will. Maybe if it came out now, it would do better. I don't know, but I mean,
that's a really good point because this came out in 2005. I don't remember when. I guess
it's 2005.
September of 05, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if my numbers are correct here, I'm just gonna double check on this.
Yeah, while you double check, I feel like the paranormal stuff didn't really hit fans until like Paranormal Activity, and wasn't that 2007?
Yeah,
or somewhere around there. So like when I know I'm supposed to be defending the fourth kind, but when Emily Rose came out, like Brad said it perfectly, I think it's just way ahead of its time, and that the fans were not ready for this particular film.
So this came out in 05. It came out a year after Saw. It came out the same year as Hostel. So that's kind of it. Came out 2 years after the Texas Chainsaw remake.
Yeah, it's all gore at that time. You know what I mean? That's all freaking.
Yeah, it was the torture porn and remake era. So it just the Emily Rose movie just came out in the wrong era.
Sophisticated. It's a sophisticated movie. It's got themes. It's got arcs. It's got what you want. And yeah, just that horror movies really just weren't doing that as much at the time. Like they were being more, in your face scary. This one comes in with a story and don't get me wrong, I love all those movies as well. But it comes in with a different flavor of horror, and I guess maybe that was a little bit ahead of the time. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree, and it didn't, as much as the score isn't reflective. I mean, it cost $20 million to make Exorcism of Emily Rose. Yes,
correct. I've estimated of 19 to 20 million.
Yeah, and you had 75 million as the return.
Yes, that's the domestic. According to IMDb.
The worldwide total was 145. So in order for a movie to be considered like profitable, you have to double your budget, and then kind of whatever you make after that, is considered.
Right.
So if you have a $19 million budget and you're bringing in 145, pretty successful. Even with those crappy reviews,
definitely,
that's not a bad return at all, really.
So I just don't get the rating stuff. So it's just.
But the good thing is, we all have minds of our own, and just because the people on Rotten Tomatoes doesn't like something doesn't mean we can't. So
exactly.
So I guess we'll start on Emily Rose here. We'll go in chronological order, right?
Hey, there you go. So without further ado, Robby, this is now you're the moderator, so the show is in your control. Go right ahead with any questions, and let's get this started.
Okay, so in regards to Emily Rose, now you saw this film recently, correct?
Me, right?
Yes.
Yes, I would believe like a couple of months ago. Yes.
Okay, now when did you see this, Brad?
I saw it I've probably seen it 3 or 4 times at this point, with the first being probably back around the time it came out. Maybe a couple of years after, somewhere in that ballpark, though.
Now, are you a big fan of this genre, like the exorcism, possession subgenre?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. Now, what would you consider to be, is The Exorcist at the top of your list as like the best in this?
Yeah, I think that's safe to say.
Now, where would you overall? Where would you rank this on that? I just kind of want to see your where you are here.
So I think just off the top of my head, a few that stand out. Obviously, The Exorcist. This one's up there. Like, it's definitely up there. I really like The Last Exorcism as well.
Okay.
Which came out. I can't remember what year it came out, but it was a found footage flick. If you've seen it, it's pretty solid. I really enjoy that one. So I would honestly say those 3 were probably my top 3. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything obvious out at this point. So this would probably be my second favorite as well, and Last Exorcism would be right under that. I mean, they're probably, if I watched Last Exorcism today, it might change. I don't know. I really enjoy that movie.
Gotcha. So all close. Now, this movie is based on a true story. Now, a lot of times when you hear things based on a true story, it might not be true at all. It might be embellished. The recent Conjuring movie was based on a true story, but then so much of it was embellished. Now,
yeah, Hollywood just added their shit in there.
Yeah, exactly. Now, was the Emily Rose girl, was she really possessed? Who knows? But everything that actually happened to her, as far as the way she was, treated or mistreated by doctors and by her priest, and all that, actually, that's all documented. That's all real stuff. She was a real person. There's pictures of it. You actually have recordings of her going through her possession and whatnot. So as far as the performance of Jennifer Carpenter, what's your thoughts on how she did in presenting it in a serious, believable way? Because this movie is it's played very straight. This is not any type of comedy. This is a straight kind of drama horror film.
Yeah, definitely. There's no comedy in it whatsoever, really. So as far as Jennifer Carpenter goes, I think she did a really good job with this. And just in general, this movie in general did a fantastic job of putting everything in there and kind of going down the middle. Like, at the end of the movie, it's not definitive or not, like whether or not she was possessed or if she was schizophrenic or whatever. Like, it does a good job of playing that line. Either thing could be possible by the end of the movie. And with the performance that Jennifer Carpenter gives, I think she really kind of sells that. She's doing some crazy stuff with her body, but it's all kind of explained in the court case at the same time. So it's like she's doing crazy little back bends and all kinds of little, convulsions and things like that. And she nails it. And the way that you can see this kind of this pain on her face and the way she's freaking out, you can feel that. You can feel her fear through that. But at the same time, it does a good job of maybe throwing out the fact that maybe that's not what's going on. So I think it's pretty cool. And you can kind of see that through her performance, I think. She does a good job of being kind of in the middle of, schizophrenic or being possessed. Like, you don't know for sure. And I think she does a great job.
Yeah, she was pretty young when this movie came out. I mean, years later, she was in Dexter. I think that's the show that she kind of really kind of blew up in. So to be a young actress and to have literally the whole movie kind of resting on your shoulders, because if she didn't have a good performance and it wasn't believable, this movie would have collapsed.
Definitely.
Even though everyone else in the film did a very good job, it's really anchored, I think, by her, right? So
yeah, and one of my favorite moments of the movie is when she gets the first kind of impression there, when she's laying in bed in her college dorm, and she's feeling the pressure or whatever on her body, and And I mean, she just sells the hell out of that, man. Yeah, I thought that was very convincing. And yeah, I mean, I again, I could tell that she's going through something and crushed it, just totally crushed it.
Now, how did you feel so much about the flashback element of it? Would you have rather seen this kind of just in a linear story, or do you like the idea of the court case and the flashbacks through that?
No, I really quite liked the flashback thing. Actually, I thought that was a very smart move. I thought the way it started off with her death, essentially, and the medical examiner showing up at their house, and it's a really gloomy way to start off. And I really like the way they did that, because it's like, okay, we know how this ends, but how did we get here? And I really enjoy that aspect of it, and the way they intertwine the court case and the testimony going on and her actual story, I thought was perfect, because it really does a good job of like specifically whenever they're talking, oh yeah, they're people schizophrenic are known to do crazy things with their bodies or whatever. I think it was epilepsy actually. Yeah. And then it kind of cuts to a video of her doing the crazy backbend at the church or whatever. And I thought that was really creative, and I thought that was cool. And again, I thought that really kind of helped build the story and again, kind of ride that line of in between. And yeah, I thought that was really creative, and that's one of the stronger points of this movie, I think, actually.
Now sticking with the acting side of it, the main lead, I guess, outside of Jennifer Carpenter is Laura Linney, who it's interesting because I've always loved this film, and last year, since we all had a lot more time on our hands with everything going on, I was kind of just watching movies I had never seen before, and I think I racked up, like, not including new films, I think it was 150 movies I had never watched from previous years, and one of them was Primal Fear with Edward Norton
and Richard Gere. See it there? Yeah.
And Laura Linney is in that movie. She plays a lawyer.
Yeah.
So I watched that and I go, wow, okay, maybe that's why she was so good in Emily Rose, because she had experience. She plays her role here pretty straight. She's an agnostic, and she's only taking this case, right, so she could hopefully get like a promotion.
Yeah.
She wants her name on that door,
Yeah.
And to share a firm. How do you think she did? Because outside of the flashback stuff with Jennifer Carpenter and Emily Rose, in the current timeline, Laura Linney, along with Tom Wilkinson, who's Father Moore, they kind of anchor it down. So what do you think of her and of Tom Wilkinson's performance as the priest?
So Laura Linney for me is my favorite performance in this movie, over even Jennifer Carpenter. I think she freaking knocked it out of the park. And obviously I've seen her recently in Ozark and stuff on Netflix, and I didn't even notice that was her until I went back and rewatched it. But obviously she's a very talented actress, and you can see that. I've noticed that in Ozarks and stuff, and I always thought she was strong in this movie too. But going back and watching it again, it really stood out to me. And her arc, she has the best arc in this thing. Obviously, she starts off really just, she's doing this just for herself. She wants the promotion, she wants to be partner. She just defended some shithead and got him out of prison or whatever, out of life, I think, or death penalty even, I think yeah. So she's got this prideful thing going on, and then she takes this case just because, oh yeah, I need to get the promotion. Man, at the end of it, she doesn't give a shit. She ends up leaving. They're even like, okay, here's your promotion. She's like, no, you can stick it up your ass. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. It has a fantastic arc. Like you said, she's starting off agnostic, and then she, as time goes on, she's like, okay, this shit's possible. This is what I'm really, it's a great arc, and it's really because of her performance that it works so well. I think for me, she is the headline of this thing, and she does a great job. There's emotional scenes with her. There's serious scenes with her. These closing arguments in the court case that she nails. She knocks out of the park. And for me, she was the most compelling character and performance in this movie.
Oh, can't really push back against that. Now there were on the flip side, we had Campbell Scott played Ethan Thomas, who was the prosecuting attorney. And he was brought on. His character was supposed to be well known as a religious guy. I really liked how he performed in this because it wasn't that he was like a bad guy. He was just doing his job. And I thought he really bounced off well against Laura Linney's character, being kind of this aggressive prosecuting prick. You know, what did you think about him and how he kind of anchored the other side of the argument?
Yeah, I think that's also a good point. He starts off just being like, oh yeah, hey, let's go ahead and get you a plea deal, 6 months. Yeah, woo, all that. And he starts off as you think he's kind of a decent guy. He's talking about his religion, his beliefs, his faith, and all that stuff, and whatnot. But then as the movie goes on, like you said, he never becomes a bad guy per se. But he comes in, he's representing the people. He keeps saying that throughout the movie. And I like the way that he's kind of, he's belittling the priest. He's very argumentative throughout. Like he's kind of just that, he's saying he's a religious guy, but then he's like, are you kidding me? This is a joke. Like, there's complications to his character because of that. It makes him a little bit more complicated, a little bit more real, I guess. And I'm glad they went that route, because like, I don't know, I enjoyed it. I thought his performance overall was solid, and I like this character.
Now, when you talk about both of them, like Laura Linney is skeptical, and she tries to keep an open mind. And of course, the Ethan Thomas character is more religious, but at the same time, he has to kind of dismiss a lot of the religious aspects because he has to prove the alternative. Now, both of those characters kind of give a little, and they can't really be too firm in one set of beliefs. But another character who does not give an inch and who is very stern in his beliefs is Father Moore. The priest who this whole case is directed towards.
Yeah.
So to kind of just sum it up, Emily Rose is a girl who came from an incredibly religious home, who got accepted to college, whose parents, especially the mother, did not want her to go, but she was very excited and she goes. And when she goes away to college, slowly but surely, her mental state just deteriorates. And despite all the help from the doctors, they can't figure out what's up, so they bring in the priest, and that's when things get even worse, and then she dies. Boom. So the Father Moore, when questioned about all this, put on trial, never once did he ever step back. He was saying, this is what happened. It was by the grace of God that this happened. Emily Rose is a saint, blah, 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 blah. And people could watch this, I think, and depending on where they stand on the issue, they could look at him as really like the bad guy in the movie if they wanted to. They could say, you're negligent. This girl needed help, and you tried to pull this fairy tale shit, right? This religious stuff, and you had a girl's life in your hand, and you killed her. You could take that outside, depending on how you look at the film and the issues that are involved in it. But I think someone like myself, who's not religious, but I watch this film and I am very sympathetic, because whether Emily died because of exorcism gone wrong, or she died because of epilepsy and she was not handled properly, I believe as a viewer watching this, that Father Moore did what he thought was right, what he thought was in the best interest of Emily Rose, and he was just following his heart. And he made me believe him, and I thought he came across as an incredibly sympathetic character, and I bought into him. How do you think he played that off?
Same, yeah. He really did. He's somebody. He's a character you can buy, and again, he's got a great arc too because all he cares about is telling Emily's story, right? And it's like he doesn't care if he's going to prison for 20 years. He doesn't like. He turns down this fantastic deal for 6 months of jail time, and whatnot, just to go on stand and tell the story of Emily Rose. And you can tell that's his mission. That's what he wants to do, and he doesn't care about anything else. If he goes to prison, he goes to prison.
Yes.
So I think that's great. And you can see why by the time at the end of the movie when he reads her letter to the jury and to the people who are witnessing the trial there, you can see why he would want to do that. And I think that's important. That's obviously kind of the arc of the movie, rather, that everything that is going on here is for people to buy into this more and to gain more interest in the church and everything. And it all works. I mean, and a lot of that is his character because he does come off as, he through his performance, he comes off as kind of a warm character, somebody that's got some charm and somebody that cares about this girl of Emily Rose. So I think that plays off really strong. And I quite like that.
Now, outside of the performances, like on screen, obviously there's got to be somebody behind the camera here to make all this work, and that's Scott Derrickson. Yes. Now, more recently, we would know him for directing Doctor Strange, which is a bit of a departure, I think. Yes. From what he's done. I liked the film. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the sequel. Since this film, Scott Derrickson has directed Sinister. He directed another very good exorcism film called Deliver Us from Evil that I didn't like it as much as this, but I did enjoy it. I thought it was starring Eric Bana. But prior to this, really the only other film that he ever directed was Hellraiser Inferno, which is one of the direct-to-video Hellraiser movies that most people hate. I love Hellraiser. I mean, like, there's my Hellraiser box tattoo right there.
Hell yeah.
But this was like his first real film theatrical release. So what are your thoughts on his direction of this film, specifically noting that this is his first real shot at putting out a theatrical film? Not saying Hellraiser Inferno and everything did before were not real films. Yes, it is. But I'm talking about major film here with some money behind it and given a chance to shine. How do you think he defined the camera?
I think it very strong, and the reasons why again is because I think this whole story does a great job of taking the whole exorcism model to the modern world, which we don't see a lot of, and I think that's awesome. But like from the opening of the movie, like I said, the opening's very moody. Like when they get there, and again, like the medical examiner shows up, and like the family's kind of in a trance, and Emily's dead in the bedroom. That's a great way of starting out. But why, even in that first little moment, you can see that that Emily's family is still very much an old school family. It feels dated. That their house feels dated. Everything about them feels dated. Kind of like the idea of the exorcism and whatnot, because it's an old school kind of thing. Yeah. So I really like that, and that's a testament to his filmmaking, I think, because there's a contrast there of feeling a little bit modern, but then you step into this household and you can see that these people are living behind times a little bit. So I like that, and you can kind of feel that throughout the runtime of the movie, of this contrast of modern and old school. And again, he balances it all perfectly. I think for me, like I said earlier, like you don't know at the end of the movie. Like it's not definitive. It's ambiguous with the way it goes through kind of down the middle of mental illness or demonic possession. And I think it does a great job. It never at any point gets too sensational, even during the exorcism scenes that you have at the barn and everything. Like, yeah, there's shit flying around everywhere, but it's also storming outside. It's windy, it's raining. There's snakes falling out, but it's also a barn, like, and
good point. Good call.
Yeah. And I think that's great. I mean, obviously the scene's great and it looks cool and it's creepy and it scares you. But then like they explain it like, oh yeah, she does know these languages, and yeah, she's epileptic. Of course, she's going to be bending over backwards and all this. And it does a great job of balancing that throughout the movie. And I think with a less a director that's not as strong as Scott Derrickson here, I don't think it would have worked as well.
Good point on a lot of that stuff at the end. I never kind of pointed it, never really put that together as far as in the barn with the storm going on and whatnot. Everything, you make a good point, man, where everything could be kind of explained either way. And I think that speaks to the larger point of this movie doesn't feel like it's pushing either side. It just, it's just, here's what things are. Here it is. This is what the defense would say. This is what the prosecution would say. You come up with your own conclusion, right? So in saying that, I'll actually just ask you, where do you stand after viewing this movie? I don't know if you have, I don't know what your personal beliefs are. I don't know what type of research you've done specifically on this. If you got, because I would go down the rabbit hole. You start at Wikipedia at 10 at night, and next thing you know, it's 2 a.m. You got to get to bed, and you're listening to audio from Emily Rose during her exorcism. What the hell are we doing? So do you think she was really possessed? Do you think that she was just this poor girl with epilepsy, and her family and the priests that's what they truly believed? Do you think the priest and the family didn't really believe it and were just kind of crazy and did her dirty?
I think viewing the movie, I think, and I don't know too much about the true story at this point. I know it's a German thing, but I that's about all I know to the extent. But I think as a viewer of the movie itself, I think I've always leaned in the favor of her being possessed, but I think it does a damn good job of disputing some of those facts and making it possible that she's not. And it makes it it feels more modern. It feels more realistic that way, I guess. Cause I think that's how the case would go. I mean, if something like this were to happen, it would get really political really quick, and it would be, it would just be all bets are off kind of deal, and it'd be very divisive and very split. And I think it does a good job of doing that. So that's kind of how I saw it, watching the movie.
So overall, if you could slap a rating on this movie, from top to bottom, how would you, tie a bow on this one and put a rating on it?
I'd slap at the old 4.25. Really easy. Maybe even a 4.5 in that ballpark.
Well, that's
out of
good.
5.
Yeah, to me, anything 4 stars and over is a great film. And anything else after that is just kind of where it falls for you. So, 4 out of 5, that's 80% or higher. That's not just good. That's a great flick. Definitely. I love it, man. I do too. I feel a little bad for Brett, man. I know he loves this one, man. We could have went another hour or so with Brett talking about this one.
Oh, I know. I was like, you know what? Let's just forget my movie. I'm just fully focused on. I was like, how the hell am I going to talk this?
But for the last 30 minutes, we probably went 30 minutes on Emily Rose, right?
Easy. Yeah, more than likely. Guess what? I was just having a great time. So,
yeah, you're just watching it. You're just watching it inside. The look you gave is the same look that Owen Hart gave at the end of WrestleMania 10. Where earlier in the night he beat his brother Brett, but then Brett wins the title from Yokozuna, and Owen is sitting on the entrance ramp looking, going, "It should have been me."
Yeah, like, well, fuck. Like, what was the point of being Brett?
Well, speaking of beating Brett, anyway, here's a question I got for you though, Brett, because I know I'm going to want an opportunity here in a little bit. Is there anything you want to dispute?
Are you the moderator?
Well, I was going to give you an opportunity to dispute what we talked about just now.
All right. Well, okay. As long as the moderator approves it.
Well, that's where I was gonna. That's why I kicked it over to you. I was gonna see if you would add or subtract anything from what Brad said here.
Wow. Okay. There's not really much more to add, just because y'all pretty much went through every little detail and every big point too. And
that's what we do here. We're doing
yeah,
this is good. This is good stuff.
Yeah, to the opponent, great. But some negatives where I was like issues with it, like kind of like me as a movie viewer. People on the channel like notice of me. I despise long movies. So Emily Rose was about 2 hours and 20 minutes, or 2.5 hours. And to me, that's just way
did you
too.
watch?
The Emily Rose runtime.
It's like 2 hours.
It's 121 minutes.
121 minutes.
That's exactly
121. So yeah, that's like about 2 hours. Yeah, so like long movie. I guess I got the extended cut, so it's like they showed a little more and all that.
The Snyder cut was a long movie.
Well, at least they told it in like episodes, so I understood that. But freaking Army of the Dead too long too. But we're not going to get into that because I know how much you really like that movie. So
I love that movie so much. Hold on, give me 5 seconds.
All right.
All right. No one has this.
Yeah, that's like, where'd you even get that? So.
That's badass.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yes, it is. I love it. That's my favorite horror movie of the year.
Oh hell yeah!
Someone's got to hold that shit down. I can't wait. We're gonna be expanding this universe. Me and Zach gonna come together. Gonna lead the fan club. The fan club. I'm gonna ride on that tiger, man.
Oh, dude, I want to ride on that tiger to the victory. But
and that bride zombie. Take a look at her in real life.
Oh, I've saw the. Pics.
I've seen it. Yeah,
I've saw the pics, man.
She's a smoke show. 10 out of 10.
Hey, I could not agree more on that. And but yeah, just like with the Emily Rose thing, with some negatives, I felt like they could have done more flashbacks along with. I like the courtroom stuff, but to me, I felt like they did way more courtroom stuff than the flashbacks. I would rather them show more flashbacks than they do court stuff because like it works more of a cinematic experience. I want to say that's partially kind of like why too of like the Rotten Tomato scores and all that got affected with the audience because they want they want to get scared when you're going into a horror movie. Yes, this movie does have like scary like thoughts and all that, but when it comes like to jump scares or like whoo, like stuff like that, this movie does not deliver on that part. Woo! Yeah, I know. I got a pretty good who if you didn't see the part 3 skit of Friday the 13th. But
is it fair to say that since you're clamoring for more flashback scenes, you must have really enjoyed the performance of Jennifer Carpenter, and you just want to see more of that because she was very creepy in this movie at times. Yeah, they had that scene with her. I don't know if it was the boyfriend, but it's the friend, the guy in the friend zone who really liked her.
Yeah, and I trust me, I feel for that guy. That's another negative of this movie because that guy got treated very poorly.
Man, that she was possessed by a demon, then still friend zoned him. You know how this is why guys are so miserable all the time. I mean, the girl you like is possessed by the devil, Lucifer, all these Belial and all the, she names all these, and he wants to get laid so bad. She's possessed by all of these demons, and he's still not going anywhere. Do you know how much you have to like a girl for them to be possessed like this, and you're still sticking around, and you stick around, and you still get nothing out of it? What a disgrace! Yeah,
because she died.
There you go. There's my negative. You know what they should have done? He should have slept with her, and then in the middle of coitus, the demon takes control. Yeah.
Oh my god. I could just imagine that. And he's like, "What the hell?" Like,
and depending on who the female is, like if it was Danielle Harris, okay. If I was in the middle of lovemaking with Danielle Harris and she got possessed by a demon, I think before I would try to finish first.
Yeah, priorities.
That's not
priorities.
who turns into a demon. There are some that I would run from, but there's probably a short list that I would just try to speed that up, try to seal that deal, because that's probably going to be the last time you get a shot with it.
Yeah, definitely. I think you gotta. I mean, you're already there. You might as well get to the finish line. Absolutely.
Yeah, at least get something.
Yeah.
Like Marcy and Friday, the original, I might try to finish. Vicky from Part 2, no, not finish.
Well, you're just upset she wore brown panties, so.
Disgusting. That is so.
Poop
Hey,
panties,
at least she
dude.
did.
Poop panties.
Spray.
If there's anyone in that whole series who deserved to get the axe, it's Vicky Poop Panties. What a disgrace.
But she gave a courtesy spray.
That courtesy spray.
I mean, the guy. Mark is in a wheelchair. He's not like immune to any senses. Yeah.
Oh my god! But besides the point.
But back to Emily Rose and the flashbacks.
Yeah, like
that's interesting though, Brett. I'm not going to steal the show, but I just wanted to say that that's interesting because I actually preferred the courtroom scenes as far as to the flashbacks because I kind of watch it more as a drama myself, like a courtroom drama. But that's just
But are you going into the movie expecting a courtroom drama, or are you going into a movie to get scared off your ass?
I think it does a good job of both. Personally, I think it does a good job of being a courtroom drama, freaking Primal Fear style, or like freaking the one with Matthew McConaughey. But then it throws this freaking twist at the end, or throughout the movie, that it's actually a freaking scary ass demonic possession movie, and it shows it. And I think it's a good mix, and I think it's really unique, and nothing like it's really ever been done, and it hasn't been done since.
Well,
agree to disagree.
All right. Well, I guess we'll put a bow on Emily Rose. And we're going to get to our next entry here. Now, this next film, I'll just kind of I'll preface this here. This film came out in 2009. By this point, I was in a different point in my life. I was no longer living in Long Island. I was living here in Orlando, Florida. I was married. I was a new dad, probably of about a year and a half, 2 years at this point. And I remember going to see this movie with my ex-wife at the time. And this was, during a time where I was not going out to a lot of movies because, listen, when you get married, when you have a kid, you're not just jumping to the theater every weekend. You got shit. So I hear about this movie called The Fourth Kind. And I read up on it a little bit. And it's kind of based on a true story. But there's a million movies that are based on a true story. It's not true, but it is what it is.
Right.
And Mila Jovovich is in it. I hope I said her last name right.
Yeah, trust me, you did a lot better than I would. So I'm glad you said it.
Oh, well, when we talk about the director, we'll talk about trying to pronounce the names correctly. So,
man.
So Mila Jovovich, this is kind of in the peak of her Resident Evil fandom. Probably around, towards the end of it, but still riding high on it. And I remember watching this film. It's not a long film. It's a little over an hour and a half.
Yeah, about hour 37.
Yeah, I remember leaving the theater and driving home and calling my dad and saying, when this movie comes out, you have to watch this because it's the scariest movie I've ever seen in my life. This movie scared me so much. And even now, I can't even pinpoint why. I went to rewatch it probably about a year and a half ago because I did a review for it on my channel. I did a review for the movie, and it was like a review for the movie, and I also did like a mini history of aliens in horror films. And I picked this film to be the one that I put with that because it doesn't get enough attention in my mind. And I don't know if it's because of the use of the split screen where you see what's supposed to be real footage matched with the current footage that gives it a more realistic feel. So for people who don't know, this is a movie that takes place in a small town called Nome in Alaska, where they're known for a lot of disappearances. Now that is factual. That's not something that's disputed.
Yeah, and I believe they were number 1 in Alaska, while number 2 was Anchorage.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that go missing. Now they say they kind of write it off as the people that go missing are people who might have gotten lost in the woods area hunting. It's really bad weather. It snows a lot, so they could have been buried under all this stuff. Whatever. So the movie, because there's no definite reason why these people are getting are missing, that leaves a lot of questions. Why, right? So the movie's explanation is that it's due to alien abduction. And our main character, which is played by Mila Jovovich, who is a psychiatrist or psychologist. And of course, she starts, her patients kind of explain all these crazy things that are happening, and that's kind of how everything unravels, where the alien abduction ties into that. So for you, Brett, overall, going into, before you watch this movie, have you ever really heard much about it at all?
About like this particular story of alien abduction for this movie, or just overall?
Overall, the film.
Oh no, had zero clue about anything. So I went with this movie into like a brand fresh mindset. I didn't look up anything, or I just went in with a clear mindset.
Okay, so you saw this through the lens that pretty much that I saw it. You just go to see a movie. Now, the way that it's presented, you know, they say it's a true story. So much of the movie you see, like we talked about, split screens, where you have the Mila Jovovich, for an example, would be shown with her character being interviewed. And then you see on the other side a very bland and plain looking woman who is not good looking. She's really kind of done up, where she looks like almost comatose in a way. So
yeah, like man, she's been through hell.
Yeah. Did you like the use of that? Do you think that was a positive, or do you think that was a negative for the film?
I think with the casual audience, that's a negative. Just because mainly like they want to focus on one thing, like with one screen, one like set of actors and actresses. But to me, it works just because it's so different, and I like when when movies be different, and I like to see kind of like the realism of if I can pull up the actress's name here, that
her name is Charlotte McCard, right?
Yeah, Charlotte McCard. Yeah, I like just kind of like seeing her talking to the patients, kind of like the realism there. And I like kind of like the movie cinema version on the other side too. So it kind of really makes you pay attention to both sides of the screen. And I like when movies challenge you like that. So I think that's a huge positive for me.
Now, also, like in the use of the split screen stuff, there's a lot of times where you'll see someone who is kind of like in the middle of getting abducted. They might be, you know, there's a scene of somebody getting kind of like levitated, or then somebody's like singing of like a guy's face getting pulled or something like that. But during this, the camera kind of gets distorted, so you can't really see it, but you can see it. I thought that was effective because it kind of left you on edge, thinking, did that really happen? Did not. Now, other people might say that that's kind of cheesy. It's a cop-out. It's just as an excuse, a gimmick. Did you like how they created those type of scares? Or did you think it was just kind of a cheesy gimmick?
I didn't find it really cheesy at all. I thought it was effective too, just because like you never know, like with those kind of recordings, you never know what's going to happen. And the one where they were over at Scott's house, one of the patients of Scott, when he was in bed just freaking out, and they were going to do a hypnosis on him, that that scene alone scared me more than the Exorcism of Emily Rose. Yeah. It was a super effective jump scare. It really freaked me out, him levitating and the mouth pull and all that.
The mouth Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like a mouthful of like when the aliens abduct, it just kind of distorts your body. So that's kind of like how Scott got all paralyzed and his spine messed up and everything. It was really disturbing to look at. So it's just kind of like the scrambling of like the newsfeed and all that. That's the aliens. They were doing that. That's kind of like their version of the EMP of kind of like, hey, you didn't see anything that's happened. There's no way it can trace back to us. So those kind of scenes, they really like. I'm always focused on them just to see what happens. So I think they're really effective to me.
Yeah, no, there is a scene that I remember also kind of really getting to me. There's one of her patients starts to just completely lose it. And it's when he gets the gun out and the cops arrive at the house.
Yeah, I believe that's Tyler.
Tyler, yes. And that's where he kills himself in that.
No, I'm sorry, that's Tommy. My apologies.
Okay. And the head sheriff, the main guy.
Yes, Sheriff August, played by Will Patton.
Yes, I really liked him in this role.
Mm-hmm.
He really liked Abigail's character, but at the same time thought she was just really suffering from PTSD because we learned that her husband had died.
Mm-hmm.
And his death kind of haunted her, I guess, right?
Right, just because like she kind of felt like sorry for herself because she didn't do everything that she could to prevent it.
And I really like that aspect of the film, especially with her character, because it added a little bit of a depth in there, and it added more of, I guess, more questions for like the police would look at her and not truly believe her because they thought she was just kind of losing it, and like that's how she would. All these stories she was kind of telling, what, like, is that a result of her just losing it because of her husband? I thought he did a good job as the police officer. What do you think, though, Mila Jovovich, in her performance in this role? Do you think she hit a home run? Do you think it was just fine? Do you think it was miscast?
I don't think it was like you could kind of say it was miscast because like the hair difference and all that from like the two separate videos. But I thought Mila did a really good job selling the character of Abby. Just us to be sympathetic towards her. I thought Mila really brought that to her. I thought her facial expressions were really solid. Just kind of like showing her like concerns and her fears, not only towards her patients, but also towards her family too, and her two kids, which you also kind of like gravitate towards her because she's going through a rough time dealing with her daughter, which she got blind ever since her husband just died. And then you got Ronnie, who is having just a really hard time accepting that his dad died and that his mother was somehow responsible for letting the dad die, which Mila really just sells everything with just being like sympathetic. She's also determined too to figure out what is causing all these disturbances in Nome, Alaska. So I thought Mila did a really good job in this movie.
No, I'm gonna like double down on her character because we end up finding out that her husband, for the longest time, she like it was kind of in her mind she didn't know what happened to her husband, why her husband died, but her husband died because he killed himself, and it's almost like her mind didn't process that. Now, knowing that she's having obviously really deep psychological issues here, she's someone who needs to speak to somebody instead of
the other way around.
Yeah. Do you think now, and I'm kind of just piecing this together in my mind here, do you think that this film is almost kind of, it's not just an alien film. Now, is this movie more about a person dealing with grief, projecting that grief and that misinformation onto others? Do you think that the people that her patients who came to her with issues that maybe she found ways, not on purpose, but found ways to make these issues worse, that the patients ended up kind of killed, the one patient shoots himself and kills himself.
Yeah, that was Tommy. He killed his wife and 2 kids and himself. And that scene was suppressing.
Was that due to anything involving aliens, or do you think do you think that he came to her with a problem, and because of how messed up she was, she gave him bad information, and that the alien stuff is just window dressing for something a lot deeper beneath the surface? You see what I'm getting at here?
Yeah, I know. I see exactly where you're getting at, and I kind of say it's a little bit of both. Just because she really, you tell she could really truly want to help, but I don't, like you kind of stated, I don't think she was in the right healthy mindset to help anybody at that time. But some people, like how they deal with grief, which everybody deals with grief differently. Like some people take time to grieve over it and then move on, or there's just people like, I've got to dig right into my work so I could just like ignore everything. Or kind of like in this story, the reason she continues to helping patients is just because that's what her husband would want her to do. So she is just carrying out what her husband was doing.
Yes.
So that's one way. And then the other way is the aliens, because what they were kind of insinuating for all these patients, it's like with the owl, that's like the aliens putting that into their victims' like memory to kind of like, hey, you didn't see aliens, you just saw this owl instead. So the owl kind of in a way represented the aliens. Yeah. And the aliens had a lot to do with Tommy going crazy too, but I feel like what really hit the nail on the whole deal is for Dr. Tyler, really just like doing the hypnosis and bringing it all back to the patients when the patient didn't want nothing to do with it. And then that's just when all hell breaks loose.
Maybe there weren't any aliens at all. Maybe all this hypnosis stuff was just it kind of manufactured kind of this alien excuse. At the end of this movie, her daughter is abducted by an alien.
Mm-hmm, correct.
And she gets into an accident and she breaks her neck.
Mm-hmm.
He's left paralyzed, I guess, from the waist down.
Yeah, like she has to, even to this day, she's like bedridden.
Maybe there was no alien abduction. Maybe she killed her daughter. Maybe something else happened to her daughter, and in her mind, it was processed as this alien thing. Maybe this whole movie and her and all the stuff that's going on in the movie is just a manifestation. I guess that's the way of the word. And just a way to kind of reflect her grief and how she tries to deal with the process of losing her husband literally right next to her. Her unable to help. Her whole job and career in life is to help people, and she can't help her husband.
Mm-hmm. Or even herself.
How is she going to help anybody else? So maybe I'm reaching here. Maybe I'm looking for, because I often do that. I find these movies, and movies that really connect with me, I dig below the surface, and I just try to find more meat on the bone. Because if the movie's going to affect me, I can't accept the fact that it's just surface level. I have to believe that there's something more there. So maybe I'm off base. These are things that are just coming to me now that it's just kind of word vomit. So I do think you can kind of go deeper with it. I think there's a lot more to this movie than the 18% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying this is a 100% movie. I'm not saying this is a 5-star classic, but this is better than the dollar store bargain of the bin DVD that's mixed in with the washcloths and the cheap headphones that break before they get opened up in the box. You know what I mean?
Oh no, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that.
Now, as we kind of went through the performances and the characters, I have to. I'm gonna try and I apologize here. I'm gonna try to say the name of the director. I don't think I can though. His name is Olatun Asuna Samini.
Hey, a lot better than I would do. It's I would say let's just call him Olot.
Okay, I'm just gonna call him Double O.
Yeah, 00. There we go.
Good name.
Not 007, just Double O.
Just 00.
This should not be a surprise considering the rating and everything. This was really the only movie he ever did. It says here he directed a bunch of Star Trek stuff. He directed some stuff in the Sleepy Hollow TV show, and he worked on the show called Falling Skies. But this was his real only film, and for a guy who had never really directed before or after, how do you think he did putting this film together, especially in the unique way and kind of the atmosphere that he created for this?
Well, for his first time, like giving like a directing like a very important movie with an important story that's like based off true events, I thought he did a really nice job. Like it's a lot of pressure to put on a brand new director, like to handle this kind of story with this kind of like topic of alien abduction, where people are just like really getting uncomfortable talking about. Which that's kind of like I say that it's more scary to me is alien abduction than paranormal, because people talk about paranormal stuff like crazy.
Yeah.
Do you really see people talk about alien abduction? Because to me, that's more real than paranormal. Because to me, you can fake more on paranormal stuff than you can on alien abduction. But to go back to the directing point, I feel like it's just with the whole 2 camera and the 2 like strings and all that. I think that's just him really just wanting to try to hit like being so different, and he knows he has to like put all of his chips onto the table. And I feel like just to me, it really paid off. And I thought he did a really, really nice job. Plus, he only had a $10 million budget too, which in 2009, that's not the biggest budget in the world. So with everything that he got, like the resources and the cast and all that, I thought he did a really good job.
I agree. And he actually acted in this movie. I don't know if you really.
Yeah, he was the interviewer. I noticed that the second time.
Yeah, he was the man who interviewed the real Abigail Tyler. I like when directors have little cameos or I just think it's fun. So that was cool to see. You know, Hitchcock always would do a little bit. You know, George Romero, you know, my goat of filmmaking has done it. So that's fun. But so I guess we'll bring up here, you know, like I said, this got an 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a 40 from the critics. It got not much better, only 41% from the audience. You know, for me, I put this at 4 out of 5, and I know that's really reaching for a lot of people. But for a film that scared me the way that it did, I had mentioned that I did a review for this. When I rewatched it for my review, I only made it halfway. I put it on at night, and I got so uncomfortable that I just turned it off. And, you know, that was, 2 years ago? So 10 years later, and it's still impacting me. And I can't pinpoint what exactly it is about this movie that frightened me so much, because I'm not a big alien believer guy. I mean, anything's possible. You know, you watch a couple Unsolved Mysteries episodes on things like this, and you go, maybe, why not? Who knows? So it's possible. But for some, you know, you would think that this movie would affect someone who is a true believer in alien stuff. Right. So for someone who's not a true believer and it affects them, I think it's a credit to the filmmaking behind the scenes, with the way 00 did it, and the performances. specifically Mila Jovovich and of course the
Will Patton.
yes, but also I want to make sure I get her name correctly. The one who was presented as the real version of Abigail Tyler, Charlotte Machard, who had only done a few things on TV. It's mostly a stage actress. Which was a great choice because if you really want to sell this as a true thing with real footage, you can't pick a star that people know. Obviously,
right?
So you pick this lady who 6 people in her hometown in like Bumblefuck wherever would know, or what, right? So that really impacted me. So, like I said, 4 out of 5 for me. After talking about this a little more, you've watched it twice now.
Yeah, it was my second viewing before this recording.
Okay. So if we wrap a bow on the fourth kind, how would you rank this to kind of put a period on it?
Like for me, I would give this about like a 3.75 out of 5. Like kind of like you said, like you just don't know what it is, and like it kind of like makes non-believers sort of believers. If a movie can do that, the movie did something right. Or like the director, that's probably what the director was doing, not only to tell this story, but just to put it out there like, hey, this could be real. You take it how you want to do it. And I feel this movie did a really good job to go their way about it. So I think a 3.75 is out of 5 is the best that I could put it on this movie.
I think that's fair. Now, we gave you a chance to push back on Emily Rose, and you pushed back a little here or there, but it did feel like it was more, a little nitpicky because the movie is so good. So you can't.
Oh, I'm not denying the fact that Emily Rose was a bad movie. It's a great movie. So I just felt like people are like, oh, the fourth kind ain't going to touch this movie. Well, in some certain aspects, the fourth kind like does some things better than Emily Rose. So that's why I wanted to defend the fourth kind because it's not as bad as people think it is. It pisses me off that people think it's that bad. Like Brad over here.
Yes, sorry, Brett.
It is only fair if we offer Brad equal time.
Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and apologize ahead of time to both of you guys. I think it's awesome that you like the movie. Brett's going to get mad at me. Robby, I'm sorry. I love both of you guys. This is going to be great. To me, I wasn't a huge fan of the flick. Now I'll get a couple of positives out of the way first. Okay, I do like the fact that they did try to do something different with the way they told the story. And whatnot. Obviously, Will Patton's GOAT. Like he's one of the best character actors out there. He nailed it here. And again, this kind of toes the line again, same way Emily Rose did. Of is it real? Is this an alien abduction, or is she losing her mind? It does a good job of that. I do respect it for that. But I just. That's about all it does for me at this point. At the end of the day, I didn't find this movie very compelling. It's got a couple good little jump scares in it at the end of the day, but overall, like the way they did the split, and I'm glad I was listening to this what you guys were talking about. I assumed with the way that they were talking that was the real Abigail that they were interviewing in the movie. So I that was my assumption. They did a good job of that, of making it feel real. But now that I know it's not, it even feels even more cheap to me at this point. It just feels like a gimmick. This whole thing just feels like an episode of something you would see on Sci-Fi at like 11 o'clock at night. Like the way it starts out with Mila Jovovich. It starts off with her like walking on the screen. He's like, "Hey, I'm Mila. I'm here portraying Dr. Abigail. Whatever you believe in here is real, or it might not be real. Whatever you believe it to be." But this is all real footage. It just feels corny. It feels gimmicky. And again, I thought it was a cool idea to try, but for me it failed. But because it made everything feel less real to me, because it's doing all these split screens, and it's constantly reminding you of the fact that this is a movie and these are portrayals of characters, or these are characters rather of real people, I guess. So to me, it's a constant reminder that everything you're seeing is is just kind of a recreation, if you will. It feels like a Paranormal Witness, any kind of TV show you'll see on sci-fi.
So so you're kind of saying it's like it took you out of the movie, so you couldn't really get invested in the story.
Exactly. I never really felt invested in these characters because it's constantly reminding you that they're fake people. They're not real. They're not real people. This is all a portrayal of other people, and
Fair.
that it was distracting me. I didn't care about the characters. I mean, I thought, you know, some of the performances were solid, but at the end of the day, like, I was constantly reminded that they're not real. And I mean, they are real, but they're not. It's a portrayal. It's a recreation. I was constantly reminded of that. So overall, I thought that was pretty distracting. And I mean, I think the story is good. I think there's potential there to really have a good story of these people going missing and it being kind of a weird kind of thing. And I think they should have focused on that kind of investigation and really told that story and got us really involved in Abigail's character. But I never felt that way. I thought it was kind of skipped over, like, okay, here's a guy that's dealing with some kind of owl dreams or whatever, and here's another guy that's doing it. But it's kind of rushed through those things, and there was a couple good moments from those. Specifically, the hostage scene where he shoots his family and then himself was very, was very intense and whatnot. But it just kind of blows through all that. I really think that investigation should have been the forefront of this movie, and it would have been better because of that. And to top it off, the footage wasn't convincing enough to me to make it worth including in this movie. Like, all the footage and stuff just seemed like, I mean, you couldn't really see what was going on. It was all distorted. I thought it would have been cool if they had the real Abigail in the movie, but now that I know that it's a actress portraying Abigail, it's like, what's the point? Like, it's not even the real footage. So, I mean, if you're going to have an actress portray Abigail, you might as well just tell the story in a linear fashion and just show the one actress portraying Abigail and really get to know her as a character and as a person and follow her through her arcs and whatnot, as opposed to throwing in this real footage of the real Abigail. And now that I know that it's fake, it's just like, I just don't see the point of even doing that, because it's just throwing in more distractions than needed. And I also think that, let's see, what was it? There was something else I was about to say, but either way, again, you have a setting of Alaska, which is obviously it's awesome, Alaska, but I never really felt that Alaska presence. I always thought that was kind of thrown in the back burner as well. Alaska is beautiful. It's probably the best looking state in all of America, maybe. And you never really felt that in the footage. There's a couple good shots here and there, but really, I think you can really get some isolation out of that. And I just think they kind of rushed through some of that as well. At the end of the day, I didn't like it because I thought it felt cheap. I thought it felt gimmicky. And at the end of the day, they did all this stuff to be a little bit different, but the footage wasn't convincing enough for it to have a purpose in the movie. And I think they really should have focused on just telling a story.
So overall, you would say that there's a lot of good ideas here, but they just were not executed as well as you would like.
Right. I think if you had a director come in with this concept of kind of intertwining real footage and the story you're trying to tell and kind of filling in the gaps, there's potential there to do something really cool with that. In this particular story, I don't think it worked because, again, the finale of the movie is a split screen where you don't know what the hell's going on. Like, it just didn't work for me because it wasn't clear enough. It wasn't compelling enough. And I think if there was, for me, I would have rather than just picked one of the, like, do a documentary, if you will, and use all this real footage and kind of tell that story that way, or tell the story cinematically and get involved with get invested to the characters and tell it that way. To me, it was just I just couldn't get invested in anybody in this thing.
Now we said that obviously with the 18% from the critics, 41 on the audience. How would you rate this? Would you go as low as the critics? Are you more on the audience side, which is still not positive, but obviously not as terrible? Would you go lower than all of those? Would you go a little higher? What would you, if you put a rating on this one, where would you go?
I gave it a 1.5 out of 5. just because I just didn't buy any of it. To me, the performance of the real the performance of the real Abigail was, she seemed like somebody who needed some mental help. And so to me, it's like, I don't know. I can't, if you could draw me in a little bit more and make this thing a little bit more viable and make me believe this a little bit more, I think it would have been a better story. And for me, it just didn't do that. So,
gotcha. So your rating is kind of in between both, between what the critics said. So a little better than what the critics would say, but a little worse than what the audience went with.
that's probably accurate. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry you didn't like the movie. I clearly enjoyed it more, but I think you made very fair points to where I could understand why you weren't a fan of it. Where, you know, sometimes in a movie, certain things just work for some people, and sometimes they just don't work for others, and that's completely fair. Especially in the horror genre, where there are so many different subgenres and different ways to tell stories. It's like when someone says that I'll meet somebody and they'll go, "Oh, you like horror movies? I like horror movies too." I don't know what the fuck that means. Like, how many times we in all of our groups on Facebook, and every day there's arguments over every freaking movie, this, and that. Mm-hmm. It's because, the horror genre it's like going to an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Mm-hmm.
All three of us can go to an all-you-can-eat buffet, and I guarantee you, when we sit down at that table, everybody's plate is going to look different.
Oh, absolutely,
definitely.
That's one of the great things about the horror genre, is that it's so eclectic. There's so much within it that we will all find stuff that we love, and it's kind of one of those graphs where those like little circle graphs where sometimes things will intersect and we'll all like this a common film or franchise. Mm-hmm. But then there's going to be there's the other ones, like you and I, we all like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all like
this
one. Two of the three like this one,
right?
But only one of us like this one. So, but that's. I mean, I didn't plan that, but that's just a good representation of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Your whole buffet.
That's a great thing.
Yeah, your whole buffet thing. That's honestly the best way to describe the horror genre. With the horror fans, that's one of the absolute best ones, and that's so awesome. And plus, I love food too, so you have my attention at buffet.
Yeah, man, I love one price all you can eat. Reminds me.
Yeah, can we bring back Ryan's? Do you remember Ryan's?
I have a place around here called Golden Corral.
Oh, we got those now too, but it's not as good as Ryan's.
Oh, okay.
For what we have in Tennessee,
my favorite,
or used to have.
My favorite movie moment involving a buffet is in Vegas Vacation, where Clark loses all his money, so cousin Eddie brings him, and he goes, "Clark, this is all you can eat. We only need one plate." And then he already goes, "Give me some of the yellow. Don't be cheap on me."
Yeah, I love that sequence.
Great.
So,
this is the chicken. This is the beef.
Guys. Thank you for having me on, man. This is good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any other questions you want to address with both movies, or do you think we pretty much just nailed? I felt like we nailed most of both movies.
I think we covered so much ground, from the performances to the directing and the behind the scenes, to the themes of the film, to what they mean, maybe even beneath the surface. I think we hit the nail on the head, kind of wrapping it up with what the consensus is from the fans, from the critics, and what's most important, us. So
right,
that's it. But what we think is most important. So
or you wouldn't be watching our video, getting our opinions. So
that's it. And at the end of the day, the opinion that matters the most is your own. So people watch these movies and like what you like. Don't be ashamed to like what you like. It's fun to offer opinions and have a friendly debate. But you know, when things get carried away and nasty, that's when you kind of have to step aside, because at the end of the day, it's only a movie, right?
Exactly.
It's
Right there.
it's like
right
it's
there.
like Wes Craven said right here.
It's only a
Nice.
movie.
I like that.
That's it. I showed this movie, the original Last House, senior in high school, to a bunch of people, and the next day I had 2 different girls call me up. They had nightmares about getting raped. I never showed this movie to anybody else in the group again. Last House on the
Could
left.
imagine.
Ouch. So, but Robby, we appreciate you just taking time. We know you're a very busy guy. We appreciate you taking time out of your day. We easily want you to come back on for future videos on our channel. The door is easily wide open for you. Anytime you want to come on, you just let us know.
I appreciate the invite, guys. This was a lot of fun. And you know what? Next time, you know, hopefully we can pick 2 more movies and have just as much success. Hopefully, both of you will like them a little bit better than The Fourth Kind, but it's okay. That's good. That makes it fun. We can't just sit here and talk about movies we love all the time. We got to dig into.
Yeah, dig deep.
We're supposed to be critics, guys. We got to critique things.
Yeah, I mean, like, you got to break through barriers.
Break through barriers. You know? Yeah. Get through the
barriers.
That's it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. And let me go ahead and close this out. So, guys, what did you all think about this episode? Slash it out. Are you on my team for The Fourth Kind, which I was probably not going to be a whole lot of you, but I would really appreciate at least one person being on my side? Or you're going to go over here to Brad with the classic of The Exorcism of Emily Rose? Let us know in that comment section down below, and let's get that discussion rolling.
And if you want to find a good reels, you can do so by finding us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, Snapchat, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and TikTok. Obviously, we're going to have Robby's stuff down in the description as well. Looks like he's on Twitter, Letterboxd, of course, YouTube, and Instagram as well. Great content created right down below, so be sure to check his stuff out.
Yeah, you're damn right. He's a great content creator. I've been following your channel for a long time, and I got so nervous to actually talk to you because of how knowledgeable you are. But you're indeed one of the coolest people I think I've really met. Again, we appreciate it. And for our channel too, guys, be sure to like this video, share, and subscribe. Of course, subscribe to Robby down there too, and ring both of our bells, ding, 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 so you know when our next videos are up and ready.
Right, you are, Ted. Again, Robby,
right.
Thanks for jumping on. We will see you guys soon for hopefully another Slash It Out episode down the future, because our next one's going to be pretty banging as well.
Oh, so should I go ahead and reveal it?
Maybe wait a little bit, but I think.
Okay, we'll make them wait for it.
Yeah.
And you might, or unless it's the alien abducts me, and then I'll have to tell the aliens. So you know.
That's it.
And you might have to get Arnold out there too.
And so I'll say they'll probe me down there or anything. We're going to be just fine. Okay, people are unsubscribing, so I better end this quick. So guys, we'll see you later.